Yeah, today I want to talk about the symptoms that go along with the pheochromocytoma, the symptoms that I experienced with pheochromocytoma. The first time that I encountered the disease, I think it was 1991. It took some time to figure out exactly what the problem was. The symptoms that, the main symptoms that I had, it started off with I was sweating, profuse sweating. I used to sweat a lot, but I was pretty young, so I didn't know if it was just from, me. I played a lot and was hanging out with my friends, so I didn't really realize it, but I sweat. I used to sweat all the time, but I just thought that's how I was. Then another symptom I had was I was very hyper, like I was a person that I couldn't I couldn't sit still for long, I would always have to be moving, doing something, just busy. It made me real hyper. Then I started having these headaches. I mean, serious headaches too. Sometimes it'll be, migraine headaches to the point where I would take a goody powder and it'll go away. Then I would maybe go a day or so and it wouldn't be so bad. Then I would get to migraines were so bad I would go to the hospital. Then when I would go to the hospital, my blood pressure was like crazy out of control. When I finally had to be hospitalized for the first pheochromocytoma, I had a mild stroke because my blood pressure had elevated so high to the point where I basically passed out. My roommate called the ambulance, and I got to the hospital in a sense just in time. I was about to really just stroke completely out. So those were the main symptoms of the pheochromocytoma that was in my left adrenal gland. And it took I probably took the doctors maybe 4 or 5 months of me going back and forth to the hospital before they finally found out what the problem was, because they couldn't figure out what was causing my blood pressure to go up. So I would go to the hospital and I might be there 4 or 5 days, and once they would stabilize my blood pressure, I would go home. And me at the time not knowing what the problem was, I just would go on with my normal day. But the sweating, the headaches, the hypertension, and then I had a lot of problems sleeping at night. That's another issue that you will encounter with this disease. A lot of problems sleeping at night. After I had the adrenal gland removed, the second time, the tumor actually spread maybe 5 years later to the T3 section of my spine. That's when I had to have my second surgery with the pheochromocytoma. Now, on the second surgery, the symptoms were a little different. I was still having the sweating from time to time, but I had completely stopped going to the doctor. I wasn't taking any medications after the first surgery because I assumed that once they removed the tumor and the adrenal glands, that it was over. Now I was supposed to have kept going to the doctors and kept up with, I had an endocrinologist and an oncologist, but I just basically, once I started feeling better, I'm a type of person, I don't like taking pills, I didn't like taking medication, so I stopped taking the blood pressure medicine when I felt like my blood pressure was under control. And I went on 5 years before it got out of control again. And at this particular time, I was working. I was working. I had my own business, but I was working also part time for the Catholic Archdiocese, dropping off lunches to the elementary schools in Chicago, Illinois, and we used to load the trucks up in the morning. And I was noticing the day would start off fine, but as the day would go on, I would start feeling like a coolness in my abdomen, and then and on my thighs, it was I would start. They would feel like a cold feeling, and I was getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And, as the day would go on, and as the days go on, it just seemed like I was having more and more trouble lifting up my legs, walking, just little simple tasks. And as the days and weeks went on, it got to being worse and worse, where every morning when I woke up, I felt fine. Back would be feeling 100% fine. But as I started functioning throughout the day at work, I was feeling like numbness in my thighs, numbness in my kind of numb in my stomach and my abdomen, to the point where I could rub my legs, but it just felt cold. I really couldn't feel them. And then I was starting to, like, if I would trip, I couldn't keep my balance. And I don't know, something just told me that time now I wasn't really having, if I can't remember having headaches at that particular time, not like I used to. The sweating was there, the hypertension was there again. The problem sleeping was there again. I was having headaches, but not like I did the first time. But what forced me to go to the hospital more so was the weakness in my legs and the funny feeling that I was getting in my abdomen, lower back, and thighs. And I was feeling a little tingling in my feet, bottom of my feet. So I went to the hospital at that time, Cook County Hospital, and they kept me 2 months. And it was realized that the pheochromocytoma had spread from my adrenal glands to my spine. And on that time, I had surgery. But in order for me they couldn't remove the whole tumor, because they would have caused me neurological damage to the point where I would have been in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. So I'm forced to still continuously live with some of the tumor still in my spine. I took radiation therapy I had 16 weeks, but only lasted, I think, maybe right at 12. And to try to shrink and get rid of the rest of the tumor, but my body just couldn't continuously take the radiation. But I'm blessed to say that was in 1996 when I got out of the hospital. It took me to 1997 it was June of 1996 when I was released from the hospital, June 30th. I'm not certain of the exact date when they released me from the hospital, but I know it was in June of 1996. And it's now 2018. Yes, I still have the tumor in my body. Yes, I still have I didn't bring up the heart palpitations. I had those both times, more so real bad the first time, more so than the second, but I still have them now, to the point where you get these moments where your heart beats real fast. It's almost like a head rush, and sometimes you just have to stand still for so long, and it'll go away. The little heart, the flutters. It's kind of scary, but that's another symptom of the pheochromocytoma that if you have it, you'll continuously have from time to time. So I don't know if this can help anybody, but anybody that's dealing with the pheochromocytoma, those are the symptoms that I've dealt with, and some that I'm still dealing with. I don't have the headaches anymore, but I still have a problem with the sweating. I still get the heart palpitations, and due to where I had the surgery on my spine and the type of surgery I had, probably in the location of where the tumor still is, I still, have pain in my upper spine, and but I've managed to live a long life. Probably not as full as it could have been, but it's been still a long life, and just knowing that the main thing is keeping your blood pressure under control when you're dealing with the pheochromocytoma. I think that is the one you want to be more cautious of than anything else. I have a blood pressure cuff that I'll show you. I have a digital blood pressure cuff that I keep close by at all times. I check my blood pressure constantly, all day, every day, because that's one of the things that you definitely need to, because that's probably how more people that have died from this illness have passed. It was called the silent killer. And one thing I noticed from being hospitalized so many different times with this illness, when they have you hooked up to machines, I would notice that in my sleep, my blood pressure was going up which is very scary. And they call it, high blood pressure is called the silent killer, because I mean you can actually die in your sleep. So if you're not keeping track of your blood pressure and it's already high, and you're dealing with a pheochromocytoma, and you go to sleep, a lot of times your blood pressure with this illness is increasing during the time that you're sleeping. So it's very important to keep control and take whatever medications that your doctor used, whether it's labetalol, phenoxybenzamine, or whichever way they have to go to keep your blood pressure under control. You want to make sure if you don't do anything else that you take the blood pressure medicine, because that is the most dangerous part of this illness, the blood pressure, the high blood pressure getting out of control. Because sometimes, like when I was at work, sometimes I mean I'm to the point now that I can judge and I can feel when my blood pressure is high. But if you're in the early stages of dealing with this illness, or haven't quite pinpointed it, if you're having the symptoms, if you don't know how to understand when your blood pressure is high and when it's not, that can be one of the things that could cause you some serious problems with this disease right here. So you want to be very, very, very aware of where your blood pressure is, especially if you're dealing with this illness. And please, if you do nothing else, make sure you take your blood pressure medicine as directed by your doctors every day. That's all on this video. I hope it helps some people out. Leave the comments. Thanks. I'm out.